you're going head-to-head with Sega's Game Gear and its great range of games, anything can happen.
It's 2 a.m., but I can't sleep until I've cracked Game Gear Shinobi.
Time Blitz, Citizen Skank.
Judge Dredd? I knew Game Gear was for real, but this is crazy.
1991. I was meant to be sent to Kansas 2014. Justice Department apologies. Your descendants will be compensated for the tour. Color LCD screen, compact simple controls, TV tuner. Never knew 20th century technology was so advanced.
Advanced, huh? Well, Dredd may be the law, but I am the judge. And I think it's time we give the Sega Game Gear a proper shakedown. It's a pretty decent piece of equipment. I mean, I really like the D-pad on here, and the 2 buttons. The screen, well, Dredd may have thought it was impressive when he was hurled back to 1991, and maybe at that time this was a pretty decent piece of equipment. The screen it's okay. It's not as bad as the legends say. However, what I really want to primarily concentrate on is not so much the Game Gear itself, but I want to talk about this, the Judge Dredd game for the Game Gear. Let's give it a review. Now, I must admit, I've actually played this Judge Dredd game before. I originally did this game on the Sega Genesis, my very first review, by the way. And what we have here is essentially that entire game squeezed down into a little tiny cartridge that you can play on your Sega Game Gear. It's a really impressive feat. And given how fun that game is, the platforming, the opening of doors, all the bad guys you gotta take on, it's a really impressive achievement by Acclaim to get that entire game down onto this one little cart. So the 2 button is what you use to jump. It's a little not intuitive. And then button number 1 is what you use for firing whatever your currently selected weapon is. I tried my best, as you can see here, to arrest as many perps as possible, but I do find that in comparison with the Sega Genesis title, the fighting in this one is a little bit harder. It's not that you can't see it. Admittedly, this screen isn't the best, but for the time, the color game was pretty impressive to be able to run it all. My problem is, though, that constantly spamming on the 1 button in order to do all the fighting, I'm trying my best to take down the perps by arresting them, and I haven't been able to successfully do it on a regular basis. Some of these guys here, you can see I am managing to arrest them, but others, I don't know if it's because I'm too close, too far. I end up shooting them instead, and they end up in a flash of light. Not a big fan of that particular problem. Another odd control scheme problem is because you've only got the 2 buttons, in order to select or change from your standard lawgiver rounds to, say, explosive bolts or such, you have to push down on the D-pad, then press number 2 in order to cycle through your different weapons. It's not a great system, not one that I'm a fan of. As I'm up here, I have to fire these little floating robots. Again, on the camera, it's sort of looking like the top half of the screen is all washed out. That's not entirely true, but it's very difficult with the Game Gear to record it properly on screen. These terminals are back, and with them we can check our mission status, what our ammunition is like, or even how well we're doing as Judge Dredd. In that case, what they've decided is you have to press up, but I believe that was the same on the Sega Genesis. Again, I'm not a fan of the fact that I keep killing perps. I want to arrest them. I've always been very impressed with how high Dredd can jump in these games. So there we go, we successfully eliminated that target as well. Can't remember how many there are, about a dozen to do on this first mission. And when you are successful, then you'll be able to push up and go in that door. This is at a later stage in the game, and again, you can see there's a perp that's hanging on that rope. Because of the control scheme and not being able to shoot down very easily, it's hard to get him. Also worth noting, at this point in the game, it's almost impossible to arrest anybody. At least I haven't been able to. So you have to end up killing almost everybody you run into. There's a variety of crazies that have decided that they're not going to be able to be arrested at all, so your only choice is to take them down with your lawgiver. Given several of these perps seem to be carrying some kind of flammable material on them, maybe that's why you can't arrest them. You'll notice the explosion is a little different. This is an indication of the kind of backtracking and puzzle solving you sometimes have to do. I know there is that shield that gives me another life. I've had to go quite a way around it in order to crawl under here to find the way to that secret compartment. I like that about this game. Now I must confess, my platforming skills are perhaps not the highest, but I find this particular area really challenging. And then that's how you would end that level. As you can see, I've been trying to tilt the device so that you can get a better idea of what the screen looks like. It sometimes looks very washed out, but in reality it's not quite as bad as that. Pretty decent for the time. This brightly lit part, it's actually just a shiny steel environment, and it's about as far as I can get in the game. I find the platforming around here very challenging. And unfortunately, by this stage of the game, none of these perps want to be arrested. I'm not taking any of them to the ISO cubes. Now this section's about as far as I can get. I can tell I need to go downward, and I think there's probably a key or a switch somewhere that I need to locate. I've been all over this place. I cannot find it. Kind of hampers my progress. I can't figure this out. Where am I supposed to go? It's so frustrating. It should be against the law. Okay. Calm down, Judge. I guess on that point, we should probably draw our conclusions. So overall, what's my verdict on the Sega Game Gear and the Judge Dredd game for it? Game Gear itself, pretty decent hardware for the time. The D-pad is awesome. Really like these two buttons here. The screen is alright. I mean, you've had to see from the footage, it's hard to kind of see it at certain times, but if you tilt it ever so slightly, adjust the contrast, it's doable. And for the time, remember this is a color screen running on just 6 AA batteries, which of course drain really fast. It looks great. The colors are very vibrant. The text is quite legible, even when it's tiny little readouts for things like your ammunition supply. That's quite good and very impressive. The game itself, well, I have reviewed it already on the Sega Genesis. It's pretty impressive that they squeezed all of that into this one little cartridge, and it's got a lot of depth. It's got a lot of different enemy types, little paths and secret areas to locate stuff. That's really good. But I don't like the swapping out of ammunition. Again, you've only got the 2 buttons, so what are you going to do? But that and the fact that you have a really hard time, I did anyway, of arresting perps and you end up just killing them most of the time, not a fan of that. I think overall, I'm going to give the full package a very slight commendation. It's pretty impressive what it does, especially for 1991. It's been surpassed in time since, but yeah, I think overall I feel good giving this a commendation. But I will agree with Dredd. Enjoy it while you can, creep.